You drive in, pay $10, watch a few spinning brushes and streams of water do their job, and leave 5 minutes later with a clean car. It feels trivial, almost forgettable. But what if that exact experience, the one you barely think about, is quietly generating millions of dollars every year for the person who owns it? At first glance, a car wash doesn't look like a serious business. There's no innovation story, no flashy branding, no sense that something complex is happening behind the scenes. Just soap, water, and a short wait. But that simplicity is exactly what makes it dangerous to underestimate. Because while most people see a one-time transaction, the owner sees a system. A system where hundreds of cars can pass through in a single day, where each customer spends a small amount, but the volume quietly compounds into something much larger. $10 becomes 100. 100 becomes 1,000. And over weeks and months, that flow turns into a steady stream of cash that doesn't depend on trends, virality, or constant reinvention. The real shift happens when you stop looking at the price and start looking at the pattern. Cars don't stay clean. Dust settles again. Rain leaves marks. Roads leave residue. Which means the need doesn't disappear. It resets, over and over again. What feels like an occasional purchase is actually part of a repeating cycle that never really ends. In The Automatic Customer, John Warrillow describes how businesses become significantly more valuable when they turn one-time buyers into repeat customers without needing to resell them each time. And a car wash, almost perfectly, fits that model. Not because of clever marketing, but because of how predictable human behavior is. People like clean cars. They don't like the effort it takes to maintain them, so they pay for convenience again and again. Now imagine this at scale. Not one customer, but hundreds per day. Not one location, but several. The math starts to shift from something small and local into something structured and powerful. And unlike many businesses that require constant attention to survive, this one runs on routine. Cars arrive, payments are processed, the system repeats. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Because the real money isn't actually coming from those one-time $10 washes most people focus on. That's just the surface, the visible part of a much deeper model. And once you see what's happening underneath, that simple drive-through starts to look a lot less ordinary. Most people know they could wash their car themselves. A bucket, some soap, 10 or 15 minutes of effort, and the result would be almost the same. So why do millions of people keep paying for something they technically don't need? Because they're not paying for the wash. They're paying to avoid the friction. Convenience is one of the most underestimated forces in business. It doesn't feel powerful because it's subtle. No one wakes up thinking, I'm going to spend money on convenience today. But throughout the day, those small decisions stack up. Ordering food instead of cooking, using delivery instead of driving, choosing speed over savings. And a car wash fits perfectly into that pattern. It sits directly in the path of people's routines. On the way home, near a gas station, next to a busy road. You see it, remember your car is dirty, and within minutes the problem is gone. No setup, no cleanup, no wasted time. That immediacy is what turns a non-essential service into a habitual one. In Atomic Habits, James Clear explains how behaviors are shaped by cues and ease. The easier something is to do and the more visible it becomes, the more likely people are to repeat it. A well-placed car wash leverages both. It doesn't wait for customers to plan a visit. It captures them in the moment they notice the problem. And here's where it becomes even more powerful. People don't evaluate convenience logically. They don't calculate whether it's cheaper to do it themselves. They feel the difference. Standing in your driveway, dealing with water, dirt, and time, that feels like effort. Sitting in your car while a machine handles everything, that feels effortless. And that emotional gap is what people are really paying for. There's also a subtle identity factor. Driving a clean car signals something: order, care, attention to detail. It's not just about the vehicle. It's about how people feel being seen in it.
That makes the decision less about necessity and more about perception, which increases how often people return. What looks like a simple, occasional purchase is actually driven by a mix of habit, visibility, and emotion. And once those elements are in place, something interesting happens. Customers stop thinking in terms of single visits. They start coming back automatically.
And that's the moment where a car wash stops being just a service and starts becoming something much more predictable and much more profitable. The moment a car wash stops selling individual washes and starts selling access, everything changes. Because the real money isn't in convincing someone to pay $10 once, it's in making sure they never have to decide again. This is where subscriptions quietly take over. For a fixed monthly fee, often the price of 2 or 3 single washes, customers can come back as often as they want. On the surface, it feels like a great deal. Unlimited washes, no friction, no repeated payments. But underneath, it transforms the entire business model. Instead of unpredictable daily revenue, the owner now has something far more powerful: consistency. Money comes in whether it rains, whether traffic is slow, or whether customers even show up. The variability disappears, replaced by a steady baseline that compounds over time. In Subscribed, Tian Zuo explains how businesses that shift to subscription models don't just increase revenue, they change customer behavior. People use the service more frequently, not because they need to, but because they've already paid. That psychological shift is critical. Once the cost is sunk, each additional visit feels free, even though the business is still profiting. And here's the part most people miss. Not every customer fully uses what they pay for. Some sign up with good intentions, visit a few times, and then rarely return. Yet the subscription continues. Others might use it heavily, but thanks to low marginal costs per wash, the business still remains highly profitable. Water, soap, and electricity per additional car are relatively inexpensive compared to the monthly fee being collected. Now, scale that across hundreds, sometimes thousands of members at a single location, each one contributing recurring revenue, each one reducing the uncertainty that most businesses struggle with. What once depended on daily traffic now operates more like a financial system, predictable, stable, and easier to grow. There's also a retention advantage built into this model. Canceling a subscription requires effort, even if it's small. And as long as customers feel they might use it again, they delay that decision. That hesitation alone can extend the lifetime value of each customer far beyond what a one-time model could ever achieve. What started as a simple car wash becomes something closer to a membership ecosystem. Customers aren't just buying a service, they're buying ongoing access to convenience. And the business, in return, isn't just earning money, it's building a recurring engine that runs in the background. But even with subscriptions in place, one factor still determines whether that engine quietly prints money or struggles to stay afloat. And it's something most people notice, but almost no one truly understands. A car wash can have the perfect pricing, the best equipment, and a strong subscription model, and still fail for one simple reason. It's in the wrong place. Because in this business, location isn't just important, it's everything. Think about how people actually use a car wash. They rarely plan for it. It's not something you schedule days in advance. It happens in passing, when the car looks dirty, when there's a few extra minutes, when it's directly on the way. That means the business doesn't just need customers, it needs to intercept them at the exact moment the need appears. A high-performing car wash is positioned where traffic naturally slows down, near busy intersections, shopping centers, gas stations, or commuter routes where thousands of cars pass every day. Visibility matters just as much as accessibility. If drivers can see the entrance early, understand how to get in, and don't need to make complicated turns, conversion rates increase dramatically. In Why We Buy, Paco Underhill explores how physical environment shapes consumer behavior in subtle but powerful ways. While his research focuses on retail, the same principle applies here. Small frictions, like a difficult entrance or unclear signage, can quietly reduce how many people stop. And in a volume-driven business, even a small drop in conversions can mean a significant loss in revenue over time. There's also a compounding effect most people overlook. A great location doesn't just bring more customers, it brings better customers. Drivers who pass the same route daily are more likely to become repeat visitors and eventually subscribers. Over time, that turns a busy location into a self-reinforcing system where visibility feeds habit, and habit feeds revenue. Now compare two identical car washes. Same equipment, same pricing, same marketing. One is placed on a quiet side street. The other sits on a major road with constant traffic flow. The difference in performance won't be small. It will be exponential. One struggles to attract attention. The other captures it effortlessly, every single day. And here's where it becomes even more strategic. The best operators don't just pick locations. They study traffic patterns, demographics, and surrounding businesses. They position themselves where demand already exists instead of trying to create it from scratch. Because in this business, you're not just building a service, you're placing a system directly into the flow of everyday life. But even in the perfect location, with a steady stream of cars and a growing base of subscribers, there's still a deeper layer that determines just how profitable that traffic really is. And it's hidden in the numbers most people never stop to calculate. On the surface, a car wash looks like a low-ticket business. $10, maybe $15 per customer doesn't sound like much. But that number is misleading, because it hides what's really happening underneath. The real story is in the margins. Once a car wash is built and running, the cost of washing one more car is surprisingly low. Water, soap, electricity, these are measured in cents, not dollars. The expensive part is the upfront investment, the land, the equipment, the installation. But once that system is in place, every additional customer becomes disproportionately profitable. This is what economists call high operating leverage. Fixed costs stay relatively stable, while revenue keeps increasing with each new car. As volume grows, profit doesn't rise linearly. It accelerates. In Economics of Strategy by David Besanko, David Dranov, Mark Shanley, and Scott Schaefer, this concept is explored as a key driver of profitability in businesses with high fixed costs and low variable costs. Car washes fit this model almost perfectly. Once you cross a certain threshold of daily traffic, each extra customer contributes far more to profit than to cost. Now think about what that means in practice. If a car wash processes 100 cars a day, it might be doing well. But at 300 cars a day, using the same infrastructure, the economics start to shift dramatically. The system isn't working harder, it's just being used more efficiently. There's also an important layering effect. Revenue doesn't come from a single source. You have one-time washes, subscription members, and premium upgrades. Each layer adds to the total, often without significantly increasing costs. So, instead of relying on one stream, the business builds multiple overlapping flows of income. And then there's time. A well-designed car wash can process vehicles continuously with minimal downtime. Unlike service businesses that depend heavily on labor hours, this model isn't limited by how many people are working. It's limited by how many cars can physically move through the system. And that's a much higher ceiling. All of this creates a quiet but powerful dynamic. What looks like a small transaction is actually part of a high-efficiency machine, where volume and margins work together to produce results that seem disproportionate from the outside. But there's one more shift that takes this even further. Because while some car washes rely on staff for much of their operation, others have redesigned the entire model to reduce human involvement almost completely. And that's where the business starts to scale in a very different way. At a certain point, the biggest limitation in any business is people. Hiring, training, scheduling, managing, each layer adds complexity, cost, and unpredictability. And this is exactly where modern car washes make a critical shift. They remove as much human dependency as possible.
Drive into a newer car wash and you'll notice something immediately. There are very few employees, sometimes just one or two people overseeing the entire operation. Payment happens through automated kiosks. Gates open and close on their own. The wash itself is fully programmed, running the same optimized sequence every single time. This isn't just about convenience, it's about control. Automation turns a variable system into a consistent one. Employees can have bad days, make mistakes, or slow things down. Machines don't. They deliver the same output, at the same speed, with the same quality, over and over again. That consistency improves customer experience while simultaneously reducing operational risk. In The Second Machine Age, Eric Brynjolfsson and Andrew McAfee describe how businesses that adopt automation effectively don't just cut costs, they expand their capacity without proportionally increasing expenses. That's exactly what's happening here. A single automated lane can process far more cars per hour than a manual setup, and it can do so with minimal supervision. Labor costs, which are one of the largest expenses in most businesses, shrink dramatically.
Fewer employees mean fewer salaries, fewer scheduling issues, and fewer points of failure. And because the system is standardized, scaling becomes easier. What works in one location can be replicated in another with almost identical performance. There's also a speed advantage. Automated systems reduce wait times, which directly increases throughput. More cars per hour means more revenue per day, without needing to expand the physical footprint. The same space becomes more productive simply by running more efficiently. But automation doesn't remove people entirely, it repositions them. Instead of doing repetitive tasks, staff focus on maintenance, customer assistance, and ensuring the system runs smoothly. The business becomes less about labor and more about oversight. And once you combine automation with everything that's already in place, strengthening, location, recurring subscriptions, and high margins, you get something that's not just profitable, but highly scalable. Yet even with all this efficiency, there's still one layer that quietly increases revenue without adding significant cost. A layer most customers interact with every single time, often without realizing how much it's influencing what they spend. And that's where the numbers start to climb even faster. The smartest car wash owners don't make their real money from the basic wash. They make it from everything attached to it. Because once a customer is already in the lane, already committed, already expecting to pay, the opportunity to increase the transaction becomes almost effortless. This is where upsells quietly transform the business. A basic wash gets the customer through the door, but premium tiers capture more value from the same visit. Add wax, add tire shine, add undercarriage cleaning, add ceramic protection. Each upgrade feels small on its own, but together they can dramatically raise revenue per car without requiring a proportional increase in cost. What makes this so powerful is the psychology behind it. Customers rarely feel like they are being sold to in a forceful way. They see a menu of options, and the higher tiers simply appear more complete, more polished, more responsible. The language is careful, the packaging is smooth. And because the decision is made in a moment of low resistance, many people choose a more expensive package than they originally intended. There is also a subtle status effect here. A clean car is one thing. A visibly protected, glossy, freshly detailed car signals something more. It suggests care, success, and attention to detail. That emotional layer matters because people do not buy upgrades only for function. They buy them for how the result feels. And for the business, the math is excellent. The incremental cost of a better package is often far lower than the additional price charged. That gap becomes profit. So while one customer may enter expecting the cheapest option, the business is designed to nudge them upward, one small decision at a time. This is why car wash menus are often structured the way they are. The basic option establishes trust. The middle option feels like the sensible choice. The top tier makes the customer feel they are getting the best possible care. It is not random, it is architecture. The same logic applies inside the business as well. Memberships can be tiered. Express lanes can be priced differently. Interior vacuuming, mat cleaning, scent sprays, and detailing services all add layers of revenue on top of the core wash. The business becomes a stack of small monetization opportunities, each one increasing the value of the same vehicle passing through the same location. When this system is working well, the car wash no longer depends on one perfect transaction. It turns every visit into a chance to earn a little more, and every little more compounds across dozens, hundreds, or thousands of cars. And once you understand that, the business stops looking like a place where people pay to clean their cars. It starts looking like a carefully designed revenue machine. That is why the final question is not whether car washes can make money. It is how a business so simple can turn repetition, convenience, and psychology into something that scales this far. At this point, the pattern is impossible to ignore. A car wash is not just a place where dirt gets removed from metal. It is a business built on repetition, convenience, location, and human impatience. That combination is what turns a simple service into a machine that can quietly produce serious money. The reason it works is that the need never really disappears. Cars get dirty again. Owners want speed. People value ease. And once a business is positioned directly inside that repeating cycle, it doesn't have to create demand from scratch. It just has to capture it efficiently. That is the real advantage, not novelty, not hype. Capture. The strongest operators understand that the model is layered. They use traffic to bring in customers, subscriptions to stabilize income, automation to reduce labor, and upsells to raise the value of each visit. None of these pieces is dramatic on its own, but together they create a structure that becomes extremely difficult to compete with. What makes this business so interesting is that it looks small from the outside and highly optimized from the inside. That disconnect is exactly where opportunity lives. Most people judge a business by how exciting it sounds. Smart operators judge it by how reliably it can repeat the same profitable action over and over again. That is why car washes continue to attract serious money. They do not depend on trends. They depend on habits. And habits are far more valuable than attention, because attention fades, while habits keep paying. If you understand that, then you stop seeing a car wash as a simple convenience stop and start seeing it for what it really is: a system that converts ordinary behavior into recurring cash flow. And once that idea clicks, the next time you pass one, it will not look boring anymore. It will look like a business with its own quiet logic, waiting for someone who understands it well enough to scale it.